PES300, welcome. I'd like to just share a few slides to explain how you would approach your practical class task. I'll also include a short video clip of how it would be done in practice then. As some of you know by now, most of you, I kind of jumped the gun with some of these slides. So by number 7, I've told you about number 12 already. But I will do my best to make sure that with this explanation, it's going to be very clear as to what the requirements are for your class task. If we had to look at the requirements, first of all, in a nutshell, I can say 4 things. You're going to be given prescribed equipment. You're going to be given prescribed skill. You have to then manufacture a piece of equipment, and then you have to make a short video clip, right? That in a nutshell then. When we look at the instructions specifically, you'll see here exactly what I've said. You're going to be given a specific piece of equipment to use, right? You will then design a hard copy of 2 authentic activities where you are using this equipment, right? That lesson format, I would rather call it a template, will be available on ECI, as will the portal that you will be dropping it into. You will also be given a skill, a motor skill, so that you use that specific skill would be your focus point, and you then have to utilize the prescribed equipment for that skill. Then you are also going to or need to be made aware of the fact that you could use some of the equipment on campus, and on the various campuses you would be able to book or arrange so that you can then use equipment there, but also then make your video on campus then without having to take the equipment. The main thing is that you can also improvise. So the test here is to make sure that you can think outside the box. If we look at the manufactured piece of equipment, a blonde moment, a duh moment would be that you cannot use a bought piece of equipment. That is a no-brainer. So make sure that you are original, that you're creative, and please also make sure, and you'll see in the little video clip a bit later, that it needs to be safe. Not just safe to use, but also safe when you're making it. Because yes, the rubrics, by the way, will guide you into exactly what is going to be expected of you. So please do yourself a favor and check the rubrics. Additional equipment can also be used. So for example, if I had to give you a skipping rope, you can always use a hoop as well, right? So anything can be added. All of that needs to add value to the skill that you are busy presenting in your 2 activities. Then lastly, you have to produce a 3-minute video clip. And I'm saying 3 minutes, guys. If it's not quite 3 or it's just over 3, around 3. Otherwise, 1, it becomes too long, or 2, it's too short, and it doesn't really do justice to the 2 activities that you have to present in this video clip. Hopefully, the one that I will be showing you as well would give you an idea, but remember that video clip is instructional. So it will be a little longer, actually quite a lot longer. Then if you look at the skills, please be very aware that all these skills have just randomly been allocated. There was absolutely no plan and who gets what. It's literally a question of register, skills, let's populate. And the same went for the equipment as well. Be aware that the equipment might very well be a little arbitrary to the skill, but that's to just challenge your creative juices. So please make sure that you think about how you can use them for whichever skill you actually were prescribed. Just an example of the name list, just to show you that it is random and it doesn't quite matter who's who here. The skill gets given and then the equipment. So it's random selection of skill and random selection of equipment. You have to, however, make sure that what was prescribed is used in your activity, plus the manufactured equipment and plus additional equipment. It has to support your actual presentation. The template that you'll be using, as per normal, all the information at the top. Then if you look at the topic here, the example I'm going to be showing you is spatial orientation. So I was given spatial orientation as a skill. My prescribed equipment was a wooden baton. Over here, I'll be putting in the link for that particular, and yes, maybe I should do that, for that particular video clip. Here, and somehow it got dropped somewhere, I'll put them back. I did put in a photograph of the equipment that I made, right? So you put your photograph in there. Then, if we look at the description, obviously the first thing would be your resources. And with the resources, I clearly indicate the wooden baton that was prescribed. Then I've manufactured a recycling box or a recycled box for jumping. I've also used the hula hoop and I've also used cones. That is what now ticks all the boxes in the rubric of what is required from me. Then when we looked at the description, now firstly, this is quite similar to your previous one, obstacle course, where you have to describe. Please make sure that it's described appropriately. You need to indicate to me how many groups there would be, how they would be arranged, because when you do your drawing, your floor plan, your field layout, you won't necessarily draw 5 of the same activities because there are 5 lines of activities happening, right? So you have to indicate that clearly because it makes sense then to show very clearly one route that would be followed. All the group members, where they line up, what learner 2 and 3 would be doing, where learner 1 would be. So I've given a detailed explanation of where they move, how they move, what they're doing with the specific equipment, right? So it needs to be very descriptive and it needs to obviously match then your floor plan that is going to be next. Well, now of course I jump in with a video clip to look at that first. Right, good morning, PES300, another beautiful day in Africa. And I'm going to be explaining to you how you are going to be presenting, planning your practical class task. Right, what I'd like you to pay attention to is that now I'm using a board so that I can point it out to you. And what I'd like you to focus on is the theory part that I explained as well. So my class, or for my class task, I was given the skill of spatial orientation. Right, spatial orientation was the skill that I now need to use to focus in my activity. I then was also given the wooden baton as my equipment. Remember, these are now prescribed. So I've got the wooden baton and I've got the spatial orientation that was given to me. Then I am now going to be manufacturing a piece of equipment as well. So my manufactured equipment is the step box that I've built from recycled bottles, tied them together with some wire and put a board on top. Now the equipment's not quite finished, so I'm hoping to balance on that quite correctly when the activity starts. Then, once now I've got my manufactured equipment, I now also have to add some equipment that will give some substance, some support to the activities. So what I've done is I've used 2 cones to be beacons so that my learners know where to run to, and I've also used a hoop so that there's some dimension in the activity. Right, so that's safe, skill, equipment, manufactured equipment, and the support equipment. Right, obviously you will be teaching this activity to the camera, and if you've got 2 little ones that are allowed to be around you, please by all means use them. So what happens is my learners will be lining up behind beacon or cone number 1. This would be number 2, 3, and 4, as my description would be in my hard copy. Then learner number 1 will be placed at the furthest cone. Number 2 will now start running with the baton, wooden baton, and pass it to, not pass it yet, reach number 1 learner. They will stand back to back, pass the wooden baton over their head and return it, pass it around their bodies and back, pass it under the legs, and then number 1 learner has the baton. Number 1 learner has to then leave number 2 learner at the beacon or the cone, and then number 1 learner has to get onto my manufactured equipment that's not finished, and then balance. Let's do it from this side, hopefully. From here onto, and we're not on stable ground, balance and lean forward. Right, mine's not finished, so I'll have to fix it so that I can balance. And that, you'll see in the rubric, you will have to make sure your equipment works. Right, I'm sure I can. From here, number 1 learner then moves to the hoop. At the hoop, climb through the hoop, and then run back and pass the baton to the next learner that does not have a baton. And the process is repeated. Right, nice and simple, but ticking all the boxes of the requirements according to the rubric. So please make sure that you check the rubric as well, so that you know what is required from you, because the rubric guides you with all the descriptors. Right, then please enjoy, be creative. Okay, I want to just show you a couple of pieces of equipment just as an example. Remember, no plagiarism. Over here I've got some agility poles from rolls that I found, and all I've done is put a metal stake in the ground, and off you go. I can do my little agility moves. Then, as you can see, I've used various bottles, just decorated them. I can fill them with sand, or I can fill them with water. Then this one is particularly different, a hanger that can become a frisbee. Right, nicely covered. This one does not quite have a purpose yet, but as you can see here, I've got beacons. So if I had to put them down, I could suddenly have some skills happening around my beacons. Right? Then of course, in our times, I've got a little beanbag. Didn't have beanbags, so I had to manufacture a beanbag. Here, I don't want to be hitting the ball away, so I could tie it and then simply move from there. Right, guys, just a few ideas. Please be creative, do your own thing, and make sure that you tick the boxes in the rubric. Have fun. Go out there and be creative. Right, enjoy, guys. And then we move on to the floor plan. Right, as you can see, clearly showing where the learners would line up. They would start and why there's a learner 1 here because that coincides with my description earlier. It clearly shows, indicates what I will be doing on my manufactured, as you can see there, my manufactured box, step box, and then the route that I'll be following, climbing through, etc. Okay, so it's very self-explanatory, or at a glance, when you look at it, that must now suit my description that has got the details of what is expected. If you want to put keywords on that, that's fine. Remember, this looks like a obstacle course, but basically what I'm doing here is focusing on the skill that was provided, which was spatial orientation. So in my case, my skill needs to use space. So can you see where the focus then comes in? Jump would be different, right? And of course, I have to show you here how you balance on the manufactured piece of equipment. Great fun we're having. Right, then when we quickly look at the rubric, this is on ECI, so you can read through this very carefully so that you understand when I'm asking whether the objective is clear in the activity. What is your objective? Was it achieved? I said spatial orientation is my skill, so that's my objective. Will I expose my learners to spatial orientation experience? That is where I would be able to then justify the fact that my objective was achieved. I'm not going to read through all of them, but be aware that your presentation and your field layout needs to be carefully planned and look at all the requirements that would be needed. Were additional pieces of equipment incorporated, for example? It's a requirement, so please check the rubric when you go through the planning of your 2 activities. When we look at the video clip, now you've presented video clips already, so again, please read through there very carefully because I need you to be very audible. You'll see in the example, as soon as you will move away from the camera, then be aware that you could lose sound, okay? Is your definition, your demonstration clear? Does it make sense? Does it allow for the fact that you are telling the camera, that you're telling whoever's watching how learners would be moving? And obviously here, I'm also going to be looking at the ability of the learners. By the way, if you have 2 or 3 little ones that can join you, by all means use them as your little ones in front of you, and you can use them to actually complete your activities. Just be sensible about how you go about that. The instructions clear, that has to suit the demonstration, etc. Then if we have a look at the manufactured equipment as well, original is a no-brainer. It has to not be available in a store. Look at the size, the color, the shape. Is it appropriate to your specific skill and your activity? When you made it, was it safe? And when you use it, is it safe? And there you can have a giggle at the little video clip that's included. Is it applied cleverly? Right. Guys, that in a nutshell then, to describe to you where, what, and how to approach this practical class task of yours. All the very best. Enjoy, have fun. Please be creative. Look at all sorts of possibilities. You can do this. You've got it. Absolutely.